And inside the page source, I saw this. I saw, oh, they've got a link to a style sheet here. And, you know, you can see.
How do you know that's a style sheet?
Well, because it says link and it says style sheet. Here. It says right here, it's a style sheet. And then it says, this is the location of the style sheet. And so I grabbed that location. And as I was explaining to you, any URL that does not start with HTTP is a relative URL. It's relative to the location of the parent document. Well, where is this document? Well, it's the DailyLit homepage. So it's at dailylit.com. So I just took that little bit here, that itty bitty part, I copied it and I added it after dailylit.com.
So if I copied and pasted what's on the screen now, not this part, but the actual like style sheet, then into that document that I just created, could it technically?
You can. People do this all the time. People find a site that they really like for WordPress themes, for instance. They're like, oh, how is that style? What color did they use? I really love that color. What's the color code? Well, all you need to do is pull down the style sheet and look at what the color code is that they use, and then you can copy that color code into. So if you want to do that, for instance, if you want to take the nice light blue from DailyLit, right?
But so theoretically, anybody could copy the whole thing. Like I could say, oh, I want DailyLit also. I'm going to copy the whole thing.
Well, you could copy the whole look and feel of the site, and that does happen. I mean, people get it. People rip off other people's sites look and feel all the time because it's all right there in the browser. I don't know. I'd have to look a little bit for what the. I mean, there's obviously a lot going on. So.
But if I literally just took everything and just copied and pasted into a document and saved it as a CSS, and then had that within my HTML, would it technically then just copy the entire style of the website?
Yeah.
And all everything. So
everything, yeah. But keep in mind that the CSS works in conjunction with the HTML, right? So you also would need to have the structure of your HTML would have to be the same as the structure of the HTML of the site, which is why this works well for things like WordPress themes and so forth, because every WordPress site is roughly the same structure. So yeah, I could hunt around in this a little bit and figure out. Let me just point out a few things, maybe, since we do have this up. This is a little bit small, so it may be hard to read, but let me see where I can increase the font size in the browser here.
Got it. So you can't see somebody's HTML also, just somebody's CSS.
No, you can see it there. You can see
That's
all
where
the
we got
HTML
the
also.
CSS
Absolutely.
from.
The view source gives you their HTML, and then drilling in, you can get their CSS. So you can see, with using CSS, you can set font type, you can set font size, you can set font color, you can set background color, you can set where something appears on the page. So you can move elements around and put them in a corner or make them float. So there's so-called floating layouts where if you resize the page, it fills the page in a new way. All of that gets determined using CSS. All right, so I want to just do a brief recap just so that, because there's a lot going on. So let me do a brief recap.
I'm sorry, each page has one CSS?
No, you can have multiple style sheets, absolutely. So here are the steps. And we're going to I'm going to start extending these steps a little bit here. So when you go with your browser to DailyLit or CNN or whatever, step one, the browser says, hey, I need to find the telephone number, the IP address for the server. Step 2, send me your HTML, please. Step 3, the server returns the HTML. Now we've just learned something new. What we've learned is, inside the HTML, it can tell the browser, I need these additional files that are going to tell you more stuff. So in this case, when we included the link to our style sheet, what we were effectively telling the browser was, we told the browser, now that you have this HTML, please go back to the server. So we cause another HTTP request. And this time, the request is for the CSS portion. So in our case, it was for test.css. Okay. What does the server do? Server dutifully provides the contents of the CSS file. And now the browser renders the HTML plus the CSS. Now let me provide a brief interlude. One of the reasons why you designers at your houses always bitch and moan is because there's Internet Explorer, but there's not just Internet Explorer, there's Internet Explorer version 6, 7, and 8. There is Firefox versions 2 through 3.5. There's Safari versions 3 and 4. There's Opera and everything else. Turns out that every one of them renders your page slightly differently. And the more complicated your page, the more breakage you're going to have. And so it's a royal pain to get a page to look semi-decent across all these different browsers. In fact, to the point that there are now specific services out there, cloud-based services, that you can point a page to and say, please show me what this page looks like in all these different browsers. And what they do is, they have a whole set of computers in the sky running, and they all take a snapshot of the page, and then they show you what that page looks like. Because you don't want to be sitting there having 15 different browsers running on your machine, going to the page. Problem is, they show you what it looks like, but when it's broken, you still got to figure out why it's broken and fix it. And so this is sort of the bane of the web designer's existence, is to make a site look good in all these different browsers. Because it's even worse than what I just said. It's not just that Firefox 3.5 looks different from Firefox 3. It's that Firefox 3.5 running on a Mac may look different from Firefox 3.5 running on Windows. So it is really a very painful experience.
At work, on my boss's computer, things don't show up on our website. Like sometimes there's Flash or something that won't show up, or sometimes everyone can see the video except for him. Is that because of this?
Well, so usually, I haven't mentioned the word Flash. We did bring Flash in via the YouTube thing. So Flash is actually something proprietary, belongs to Adobe. And Adobe has managed to convince a lot of people, most of us, to include some Flash content on their sites. And as a result, they've also convinced most of us to download the Flash plugin into our browsers. But what really happens with Flash is that there's a tag on the page that says, there is a bunch of Flash. And that tag usually also points to an external file called a Swift file, which contains the Flash instructions. And so what your browser needs to do is it needs to say, okay, they want me to bring in this extra file, so it goes to the server, grabs the Swift file, brings it in. Then it needs to say, but I don't really know what a Swift file is. Oh, I have this plugin. I'm going to pipe this file over to this plugin, which is the Adobe Flash Player, and that plugin is then going to go and render that Flash content. And that Flash content is actually sort of decoupled from the rest of the page, and it gets rendered by its own little engine. So the reason why Flash often doesn't render on browsers is because the plugin is not installed, or it's installed in the wrong way, or it somehow got corrupted, or the connection between the browser and the plugin got broken. So there are any number of things that can go wrong, and all of those, or it's Flash 10 and he's only got the browser plugin for Flash 9 installed. Mm-hmm. And so, Adobe's been improving what Flash can do every 6 months or so. So there are any number of reasons why Flash content may be broken. There's sort of really two schools on the internet. There's a group that's trying to push the open standards forward, the non-proprietary standards that are not controlled by any single vendor. And so there's something coming out called HTML5, and it can do a lot of the things that Flash can do. You probably wouldn't want to try to create a casual video game in HTML5. People still would do that in Flash. But HTML5, for instance, provides full support for video. There's a big fight exactly brewing right now how it provides support for video. Don't want to bore you with all that. But the point is, these standards are still evolving. People are trying to push the open standards to be able to do what Flash can do, because Flash is controlled by a single corporation, and that's Adobe.
Before you go on, does anybody need to take a quick break? 5-minute break? Here for a while, make sure everybody's happy.
So if he can't